Hey, what's up guys? In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Viofo A139 Pro. This is the best dash cam that I've ever tested, and in my opinion it's the best dash cam that's currently available on the market. I've been running one in my car since I first got it back in October of last year, and I really like it. Additionally, I've also upgraded my wife's A139 to the A139 Pro. This new A139 Pro is essentially the original A139, but it now includes the next generation Sony Starvis 2 sensor. The resolution of the front camera has gone from 2K now to 4K, and it has some additional processing power to handle the 4K HDR video that this dashcam can produce. The case design of the new Pro model is the same as the original, and in fact the interior and rear cameras are exactly the same as before. It's really the new sensor here, this 4K Starvis 2 sensor, that's the main change. In fact, this is the very first dashcam that has the new Starvis 2 sensor, and with this new tech I'm seeing better sensitivity and less noise when recording at night. Now, I've currently got 3 different A139 Pros. Viofo sent me a pre-production one before launch. They also sent me a retail version once the dashcam was available, and then I also went out and bought a third copy for myself as well. And in this video, I just want to share kind of my experience testing out this dashcam. This is not a paid or sponsored review. There's no restrictions on what I can say. I just kind of want to share with you guys what I've noticed, both good and bad. And this A139 Pro, it's available in a variety of configurations. You can get it as a single channel version, you can get it as a dual channel version, or as a full 3-channel version with front, rear, and interior cameras. And in this video, we're going to go ahead and take a closer look now here at this new A139 Pro. We're going to take a look at the video quality available here in this new dashcam. We're going to take a look at how it compares to the competition, how well it can freeze frame license plates, the improvements to dynamic range. We're going to look at the new HDR features. We're going to cover parking recording, the Wi-Fi capabilities, the voice notifications, some of the optional accessories, as well as some of the quirks that you're going to want to know about with this dashcam too. If you guys want to save some cash, I've got a couple discount codes for you too. For example, if you use the links below and purchase from BlackBoxMyCar, you're automatically going to get 5% off your A139 Pro at checkout. Additionally, if you'd like to purchase directly from Viofo, you can save $20 off your A139 Pro by using the coupon code VORTEXRADAR. And so with all that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look now here at this new Viofo A139 Pro. Alright, so diving right into things, the big news here with this new dashcam is that it's the very first dashcam available on the market that utilizes the new Sony Starvis 2 technology. In fact, I've got a video that you can check out that goes over all of the improvements here available with the new Starvis 2 sensors, and I'll link to that video down in the description as well. And in the A139 Pro, it's using one of the 4K versions of this sensor, the Sony IMX678. Now, I've done some pretty extensive testing already with the A139 Pro, comparing its video quality with some other high-end 4K dashcams as well. And for those of you guys who've seen that video, you're already going to be pretty familiar here with a lot of the improvements thanks to this A139 Pro. Now, the first improvement that I've been seeing is improved low-light performance, especially when you're driving at night. I've noticed with this Starvis 2 sensor, I'm getting less noise compared to many other dash cams. Something else to note is that this image sensor, the IMX678, it's also physically larger than some of the other sensors used in other dash cams. For example, compared to the sensor in the A129 Pro, the A139 Pro sensor is more than twice as large, thanks to its bigger 1/1.8-inch type sensor. Now, traditionally 4K dashcams are not very good at recording at night because you're trying to cram so many pixels into a little sensor. However, because they're using a physically larger sensor with bigger pixels, it's going to do a much better job of actually capturing light at night. Now, another benefit that I've been seeing here with this new tech is reduced motion blur and an improved ability to freeze frame details like license plates. And because they're using a more sensitive sensor, it's going to allow them to crank up the shutter speed and do a better job of freeze framing motion. Now that said, the results are definitely still going to vary. There's a variety of times when you'll find that the dashcam is still not able to perfectly freeze frame action. This can happen more in like darker, shady conditions, or if you've got a polarizer in the front of the lens as well. Nevertheless, I am finding that the A139 Pro does seem to do a better job of freeze framing details such as faces or license plates. Next up, there's also some improvements to the HDR capabilities here in this dashcam. And HDR is basically there to help you capture important details that would have otherwise been too bright or too dark for the dashcam to capture. In fact, I've even been seeing situations where sometimes it's able to freeze frame the license plates of oncoming cars at night, which is very challenging to do. Again, it's not always going to be able to do it, but it's definitely a big step up compared to the competition. Now, as for the clear HDR capabilities, the new Starvis 2 tech with dual simultaneous exposures, that capability has not yet been implemented in the A139 Pro. I talked about it in the Starvis 2 video. Clear HDR is still something that Viofo is actively working on, but nevertheless, I've been seeing some nice improvements here with the HDR capabilities. And in fact, there's even been some improvements across different firmware versions since the Dashcam first launched. On that note, there was also a bug that we've seen previously with the auto HDR feature that allows you to turn the HDR capability on and off depending on time of day and night. Now with the latest version of the firmware that just came out, version 1.1.0321, with this version of the firmware, so far it looks like the auto HDR is working reliably now. Now, something weird I have noticed with the A139 Pro, particularly when it gets really dark, there are times when it seems like it starts to hunt for the exposure, and you'll see the Dashcam's video quickly flicker brighter or darker. I don't really see the same issue happen with other Dashcams, but I definitely notice it with the A139 Pro, and it does seem to happen a little bit more if you have the polarizer attached because it does block a little bit more light. But it looks like the A139 Pro has some issues with actually smoothly changing and setting the proper exposure level when you're driving at night. This doesn't impact the Dashcam's ability to record what's going on, but I do still find it to be kind of distracting and annoying nonetheless. And I do hope that in a future firmware update, Viofo can get this aspect of the Dashcam refined, just like they've got with a lot of their other Dashcams. Next, let's go ahead and take a hands-on look here with this A139 Pro. So we've got it here with the 3 different camera options. We've got the main front-facing Dashcam. We've got the optional rear-facing Dashcam that goes in your rear window to record back behind you. And then we've got the interior-facing Dashcam that's designed to record inside the car. And you can see we've got 6 infrared LEDs here around the lens, and those are designed to light up the inside of the car, especially at night. That way you can still see what's going on inside the car, even after the sun has set.
Oh my god, your Vortex radar.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, can I take a pic with you real quick?
Sure.
Dude, no way.
Now, taking a closer look at the design of the main front-facing Dashcam here, it's actually the same design that Viofo used for their original A139. So you've got kind of your wedge-shaped form factor like this. The lens is over on the right-hand side. We've got some buttons here on the rear of the Dashcam to control them. The main difference, of course, is going to be that new Sony Starvis 2 sensor. We're going from Starvis 1 to Starvis 2, and we're going from 2K to 4K. Now, if you watch my original review here of the A139, I'm going to go into more information about these optional 2 cameras here because they're literally the exact same cameras the Viofo is using here for the new Pro model. And that's also good to know in case you're wanting to upgrade from the original version to the Pro one. You can still use these exact same ones, maybe order just the single channel version of the Dashcam. The cables are going to be the same as well. The only difference is you're going to want to upgrade to their new power cable that has a number of improvements, including some power optimizations because this new version does draw more power. On the back of the Dashcam, we've got 4 different status LEDs here at the top. We've got our speaker for our voice notifications, and then we've got 5 different buttons here on the back. We've got our power button to turn it on and off. We can start and stop recording. We can trigger an emergency recording event. We can turn the microphone on and off. And we can turn the Wi-Fi on and off. I'll go ahead and turn it on here real quick.
Wi-Fi enabled.
Then on top of the Dashcam, we've got a number of different ports. These 3 over here are going to be the most important ones. We've got our USB Type-C power port, as well as the ports for the rear and interior-facing Dashcams. Over on the left, we've got an audio-video output port, as well as the microphone port to plug in the optional wired microphone. And speaking of accessories, Viofo also sells a special tamper-proof cover designed to prevent anybody from being able to unplug the Dashcam or to remove the memory card so it stops recording. And that tamper-proof cover is designed to screw in right here at the top of the Dashcam, as well as over here on the side. Also over here on the side, we've got the port for the micro SD card. It can be a little bit difficult to remove, especially if you've got short nails like I do right now. But there we go, we've got it pulled out. I like to use a 256 gig memory card, the SanDisk Max Endurance one. I'll link to this card down in the description for you guys too. And on Viofo's website, they've actually got a list of recommended memory cards to use with this Dashcam. It can be pretty picky and selective because it's writing so much data to these cards. So you can reference that list. But again, I run and recommend the SanDisk 256 gig Max Endurance card. If you'd like an even larger memory card, there's 2 512 gig cards that Viofo recommends. One is going to be Viofo's branded card, but this one is pretty pricey. The other option is going to be a SanDisk Extreme card. This one's a good bit cheaper. However, people are running into issues when these really big cards start to get full, and they wind up having trouble loading all the videos and viewing them on their phones. I've also seen some similar issues at times running on 256 gig cards, but I do think that this issue gets worse with the 512s because they can hold twice as many video files. And so I think this is part of the reason of why Viofo is currently recommending that you stick to 128s or 256s here for your A139 Pro. Anyways, moving on to the lens. This lens right here can actually rotate all the way around like this to face the interior of the car if you like. This could be useful for recording the inside of the car, but it's not something that I found to be particularly important. You'll also notice that over here on the lens there's a little white line. That's designed as a guideline if you're using it with the included circular polarizer. The idea is you can just attach this here to the front of the lens, and the polarizer is going to help knock out some glare and reflections off your windshield. Now, something worth noting for maximum effect, you're probably actually going to want to take this polarizer and rotate it just a little bit, just a few degrees, not perfectly aligned. And you can double check this just by using the app and rotating the polarizer so that you get the maximum effect here. And then once you're done, you're going to notice that these two lines are going to be roughly aligned. Not exactly right, but really close. Now we've got the included quick release mount right here. You're going to notice that there's double stick tape, so you can just peel this off and then stick it to your windshield. And the mount is designed to kind of pop off sideways, or, well, I guess the dash cam kind of pops off the mount like this, so that if you want to remove the dash cam, you can do that. And then taking a closer look here at the optional cameras on the A139 Pro, there's a number of design improvements that I like here on its cameras compared to what Viofo's done previously, like with their older 4K A129 Pro. So taking a look at what they did before for their rear camera, you notice it's kind of a wedge-shaped design like this, and then the lens itself can be tilted kind of up and down to get it aimed where you need. Now with the newer dash cam, you have the ability to rotate this in all 360 degrees, so you've got more flexibility with getting it aimed exactly the place that you want. Then as far as the connector, they previously used to use a USB connector here like this, and it would just plug into the top. However, there was an issue I would find where you would try to like plug this up to the top of the rear headliner, but that could actually cause this cable to kind of get bent and potentially actually damage the connector here. And then if you take a look at the design of the new cameras, you'll notice that the connector is over here on the side of the camera, and then the cable itself has this 90-degree bend, and so it can be plugged into the side of the dash cam and then run straight up into your headliner. You'll also notice that the cables now that connect the different cameras are much thinner here with the newer design, which is nice once you're doing the installation. It just makes those cables easier to tuck behind your vehicle trim. It's also worth noting that these connectors here are going to be a little bit more delicate, so you're going to want to install the cables here with a little bit of care to make sure that they click in nicely without actually damaging the connectors or the pins inside. Finally, one last thing to note is that the previous design did actually have a special quick release mount in case you ever want to remove the rear dash cam from the back of the car. It's not really something I ever used, but it is something that the previous design did have. The new model just uses your standard double stick tape here like this, and there's no longer a quick release option here for the mount itself, and also the camera. It's not removable out of the rotatable mount itself. So this is now going to be a permanent installation without a quick release option. Again, not a huge deal in practice, but it is a difference worth noting. Next up, the A139 Pro is available in 4 different configurations. You've got the single channel version. This is going to be good if you want just the front facing camera, or if you want to upgrade from the original A139. You can literally pop off the old one and put the new one in its place. And in fact, that's exactly what I did in my wife's car. Plus, I also really like the fact that the A139 Pro is available as a single channel version only. In the first place, the previous one, you did have to get a minimum of 2 dash cams. Moving on to the 2-channel versions, there's actually 2 versions of that. First up, you've got the standard front and rear version. This is my preferred configuration here of the A139 Pro. Alternatively, Viofo also sells a 2-channel version that has a front and interior-facing dash cam, which is nice, for example, if you're a rideshare driver. And then finally, you can get the full 3-channel setup that's going to come with your front, rear, and interior cameras. The front camera can record at 4K, while the rear and interior cameras are going to record at 1080p. If you're running all 3 cameras at once, though, there are going to be some trade-offs that you need to know about in terms of resolution, frame rate, and image quality. Starting off with just the single-channel dash cam, though, again, it's going to be capable of recording at up to 4K and 30 FPS. There's also a couple other options that are available as well, including a 60 FPS option if you run the dash cam at 2K and disable HDR. Personally, though, I like the full 4K 30 FPS option. Then moving on to your 2-channel setup, so either front and rear or front and interior, you're going to have all the same options here for the front camera, but the second camera is going to record at 1080p and 30 FPS in all the different modes. And then next, let's take a look at some of the options here with the 3-channel setup. Now, if you're running all 3 dash cams, you are going to be limited, particularly with the front camera. It's no longer going to be able to do the full 4K and 30 FPS option like you could do with the single or dual channel setups. First up, you can have the dash cam run at 4K with the full 16:9 aspect ratio, but it's going to drop the frame rate down from 30 FPS to 24 FPS. Second, if you'd like the dash cam to record at 4K and 30 FPS, it can do that, but it's actually going to chop off a little bit of the top and the bottom of the frame. And so instead of 4K 2160p, it's going to be recording at 4K 1600p. And with this wider aspect ratio of 21:9 instead of 16:9, again, it's going to be chopping off a little bit of the very top of the frame as well as the bottom, kind of where your hood is traditionally going to be. But even in this mode, I still find that it's able to record what's going on, including things like traffic lights overhead as you pass through an intersection. And then finally, if you're like, hey, I really want the traditional 16:9 aspect ratio, and I want 30 FPS, this Dashcam can do that, but it's going to drop the resolution down from 4K to what's commonly referred to as 2K or 2.5K, essentially down from 2160p to 1440p. So again, the three different options, you've got the full 4K video, but at 24 FPS for all three cameras. Second, you can do 4K and 30 FPS, but it does chop off a little bit of the top and the bottom of the frame. Or finally, third, you can do the full top and bottom and 30 FPS, but at 2K instead of 4K. I would love, of course, the ability to have full 4K, 16:9, 30 FPS, but they have put some limitations here primarily for overheating concerns, and they really want to make sure that the Dashcam is reliable, because reliability in a Dashcam really is critical. Something else important to note is the fact that the maximum bitrate of that front Dashcam is actually going to drop when you start to add some additional channels. And the bitrate is essentially how much data the Dashcam is saving while it's recording. And to give you some numbers here, if you're running with just the front camera only, at the maximum bitrate option, it's going to record at just over 58 megabits per second. And then when you add a second Dashcam, that front camera's bitrate is going to drop down from 58 down to about 44 megabit. I still find that the video quality here with the 2-channel option is still pretty good, but it is going to be a little bit better if you're running it with just the single-channel option. And then finally, if you're running with the full 3-channel setup, the bitrate of the front camera is going to drop all the way down to 26 megabit. And I do find that at this lower bitrate level, I do start to see a little more degradation in the image quality, and I do notice that it's harder for the Dashcam to actually capture fine details such as license plates. The video quality is still good, don't get me wrong, but I've definitely been noticing some improvements when you're running the Dashcam in a single or dual channel configuration. And obviously I would love it if with the 3-channel setup, it could have an even higher bitrate, kind of closer to what we have with the front camera, but it seems like basically what they're doing is they're allocating all of their processing power to whatever Dashcams are running. So if it's front camera, focus everything on that, right? If you add a second camera, it's taking some of the processing power away from the front camera and using it for the second one. And then if you add a third camera, again, it's going to be taking a little bit away from those ones to give you some extra recording capabilities for the third Dashcam. Now, if you'd like to have this interior camera here as needed, but by default just have running front and rear to get the better video quality, here's a cool trick of something you can do. You can actually go up to the Dashcam like this and then just press and hold this emergency record button for a couple seconds, and it's going to go ahead and shut off that interior camera.
Recording. 2 channels started.
And then if you're driving around and you're like, hey, maybe I do want that interior camera turned back on. Maybe you got some passengers in the car you'd want to record, or you're getting pulled over by police or something. You can just press and hold this button right here. And then again, it's going to start back up running with all 3 channels.
Recording. 3 channels started.
And so this way you can have the best of both worlds to get better video quality here by default, and then just turn this on and off as needed. Next, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the parking recording capabilities of this Dashcam. And to use the parking mode recording capabilities, the Dashcam, of course, is going to need power while you're parked, and there's 2 primary ways to do this. Number one, you can either hardwire it to your car's fuse box, and it's going to get power from your car battery. The second way is to use a dedicated Dashcam battery pack. And my favorite option for the Viofo A139 Pro is the BlackBoxMyCar PowerCell 8 battery pack. And it even has an option when you go to purchase the battery to select that you're going to be pairing it with the A139 Pro, and it's going to come with the exact parking mode cable that you're going to need to get the Dashcam hardwired. And I'll link to that battery pack down in the video description for you guys too. In any event, with the A139 Pro, you've got 3 different modes here for parking recording. The first option is going to be your auto event detection mode. This is going to give you your motion detection and impact detection recording. Additionally, this is going to be buffered parking recording, meaning unlike most Dashcams that are kind of in a sleep state and don't actually begin recording until the G-sensor detects the impact and then it wakes up and begins recording, this one is actually able to record the entire time, so you actually can capture the entire event in case somebody does hit your car in a hit and run, for example. The second parking mode option is going to be your time-lapse recording. This is going to give you essentially like a stop-motion video, video only, no audio. And the Dashcam does have a variety of different options to choose kind of how many frames it takes per second. But this is a way to get continuous recording the entire time while you're parked. And then finally, the third option is going to be your low bitrate option. This is also going to give you continuous parking recording while you're parked, like time-lapse mode, but it's going to be recording traditional video the whole time, and it's also going to add audio recording too. Additionally, in order to save space in your memory card and not fill it up too quickly, it's also going to drop the bitrate down as well. This way your file sizes are smaller and you can record for a longer period of time. Now, traditionally with Viofo dash cams, there are some flakiness issues with the auto event detection mode, and so I do find that a lot of people actually prefer to have the dash cam set to the low bitrate recording mode, just to ensure that the dash cam can capture everything and record everything while your car is parked. Something else to note here is even if you've got the dash cam set to 4K for the front camera, when it switches to parking mode, it's going to drop the resolution down to 2K or 1440p. Again, still good video quality, you can still record license plates and whatnot, but it is going to drop the resolution down from the full 4K. And then finally, another thing worth mentioning here about the parking record capability, this dash cam is very power hungry, particularly if you're running it with all 3 dash cams. In fact, for this reason, Viofo now sells an upgraded hardwire cable specifically for the A139 Pro. And if you're upgrading from the original A139, I would also recommend upgrading your power cable too. And then as far as how long the dashcam can record while you're parked, I've done some testing with the PowerCell 8, and with the A139 Pro set to the low bitrate option, I found that the single channel version of this dashcam can record for over 26 hours, so more than an entire day. Then when you add a second channel, it's going to record between 14 to 17 hours or so, depending on if that IR LED is turned on or not. And then finally, if you're running with the full 3-channel setup, it's going to record for about 10 to 12 hours or so. So not quite enough to record completely overnight, but enough to record the whole time while you're, say, at work, for example. And so again, having a dashcam battery pack with a really large capacity is going to be especially important, particularly with something like the A139 Pro. You can try running it in some of the other parking mode configurations, like if you set it to time-lapse recording, it does take a little bit less power, for example, and in that configuration, the full 3-channel setup might give you closer to like 11 to 13 hours or so, I've noticed. And if you'd like more technical detail on the dashcam's power draw, check out Retro Car Guy 530's video, where he does even more testing here with the A139 Pro. Additionally, he also takes a look at some of the thermal characteristics of the dashcam too. Next up, let's take a look at the Wi-Fi capabilities here of the A139 Pro. Now, the Wi-Fi is going to be very important here because there is no LCD on the back of the dashcam. And so for that reason, you're going to want to use the phone app to do things like setting up the dashcam, configuring all the settings, aiming the dashcam's lenses during the installation process, and then of course, playing back any of the video footage or copying those videos to your phone. And fortunately, the A139 Pro supports not only 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, but also the faster 5 gigahertz option, which is going to be especially nice considering you can get some pretty big file sizes here out of this dashcam. Now, one thing that I've noticed in testing is that the image previews currently aren't working for me. I have seen it work before, but currently, I don't know if it's the current app version or firmware version, the image previews are not loading properly. If I go in and select one of the videos, I can still play back the video, I can download it to my phone, I can do all that kind of stuff. It's just the image previews aren't working on my iPhone. I've also done some testing with the latest version of the Android app, but I see the same issues there as well. Now, personally, this isn't a huge issue for me because I'm always taking the dashcam's memory card out of the dashcam and I just pop it into my computer. It's much faster to grab a bunch of footage that way. But if you're going to be using the Wi-Fi capability, that's definitely something important to note. I do use it from time to time, but again, it kind of depends on your specific use case. Either way, though, I do hope that Viofo fixes this and they restore the image preview capability in the app. Next up, let's talk about the voice notification capabilities. So the A139 Pro does have the ability to actually speak and tell you some important information.
Video protected. Recording. 3 channels started.
At startup, it can tell you how many cameras it's currently recording to, which can be nice in case of, let's say, a camera failure or a cable gets pinched or something. If you normally have 2 dash cams in your car, but it starts up and says it's only recording onto 1, that'll let you know that, like, hey, something is going on. I should double check my dash cam.
Recording. 1 channel started.
Now that said, like with all of Viofo's other dash cams, I wish that there was more configurability and customization that was available here with the voice notifications. For example, I would love to have the option for it to give me a silent startup altogether, but only speak if there's some sort of error, such as it's detected 1 less dash cam than it traditionally does, or the memory card is corrupted, or something that's actually happened more than once to me. I've forgotten to actually put the memory card back into the dash cam, and so I'm going to go driving, but my dash cam can't record anything.
Please insert a memory card.
And so for that reason, I would love to see Viofo give us the option to give us a silent startup, but still have error notifications. Additionally, things like The parking mode recording, it doesn't tell you if it's detected any impacts the next time you get back into the car. That is a feature that I've seen with some of the premium dash cams, but that's not something that's available here as a voice notification. Nevertheless, I do find the voice notifications to be pretty helpful to keep you up to date as far as the status of the dash cam, to confirm button presses, and especially because the dash cam doesn't have an LCD on the back, and so you're going to be more reliant on some of the audio cues. Next up, if we quickly run through some of the available accessories here with the A139 Pro, first up, there's going to be the hardwire cable, which is going to be important if you want to permanently install the dash cam into your car, especially to give it power while the dash cam is parked, and so you're not having to plug the cable down into your cigarette lighter. With the hardwire cable, you can run the cable up into your headliner and then down to your fuse box or to your dedicated battery pack. There's also the circular polarizer. This is included with the A139 Pro. You can pop this onto the front of the dash cam, and it's going to help to cut out some of the glare and some of the reflections on the windshield. The next accessory is one that I find very useful in practice, and it's Viofo's wireless Bluetooth button. The idea here is in case something important happens on the road and you want to save and protect that clip to ensure that it doesn't get accidentally overwritten, instead of having to reach up and press the emergency recording button on the back of the dash cam, you can just have a dedicated button right in your dash, which is going to be easier to find. It's a much bigger button, and it just makes the whole process much more convenient, especially while you're focused on the road and driving. The next accessory is an optional external microphone. It's basically a wired lav mic, and it's designed if you want to help improve the audio quality and run a second mic to record audio from something other than the dash cam itself that's installed in your windshield. And then finally, Viofo also sells a tamper-proof case, which can secure all the cables and the memory card to ensure that whoever's driving the car, for example, couldn't just unplug the dash cam or pop out the memory card and stop the recording. And so finally, with the A139 Pro, let's take a look at kind of some of the main pros and cons that I've noticed here in testing with this dash cam. First off, when it comes to video quality, it's got the best video quality that I've seen out of any dash cam, including more expensive options. I do think that there's still room for improvement here, but nevertheless, it's got the best video quality I've seen out of any dash cam. Second, it's able to record in parking mode too, and it's going to give you buffered parking recording as well. This way it's able to capture everything important that happens around your car while you're parked. Plus, you've also got your time-lapse and low bitrate continuous recording options too. The Wi-Fi app, even though it's not perfect, is definitely helpful. In terms of updates and improvements to the dash cam, in the past 6 months that I've been testing it, Viofo has released at least a half dozen firmware updates to improve the dash cam, to add new features, fix bugs, etc. It's got a number of useful accessories that you can add, like that wireless Bluetooth button, plus the circular polarizer is included with the dash cam, and it's available as a single channel, dual channel, or triple channel setup so that you can choose the configuration that's best for you. And then as far as some of the cons of the dash cam, the full 4K, 2160p, and 30 FPS option is only available from the front camera when running it as a single or dual channel setup. If you're running it with all three dash cams, you're either going to get a 24 FPS dash cam, or you're going to get 4K and it chops off the top and bottom of the front dash cam. Or if you want to record everything at 30 FPS, it's going to drop the front camera down from 4K down to 2K. Additionally, the bitrate of that front camera is going to drop, and so you're going to see lower video quality from the front camera compared to a single channel or a dual channel configuration. Next, there's still some situations where I see more motion blur than I would expect, despite the fact that they've got a more sensitive sensor here with this dash cam. I find this is particularly noticeable if you've got the polarizer on, but Viofo has stated that this is actually something that they're actively working on. Next, the HDR capability is very helpful, and I find it to be pretty effective here in practice. That said, the dual simultaneous exposure capability with clear HDR, that's not yet activated here in the A139 Pro. I do hope that Viofo is able to get that aspect nailed, figure out, and released to us in a future firmware update. Next, sometimes when you're driving around at night, you can see this weird exposure flickering effect. And while it doesn't compromise the dash cam's ability to record what's going on around you, I do still find it to be kind of distracting. When you've got the dash cam set up in parking recording mode, it does seem to be more power hungry than some other dash cams, particularly when you're running with all three dash cams plugged in. And so for that reason, you may actually see shorter parking record times compared to some other dash cams. Next, Viofo advertises support with memory cards up to 512 gigs, but because it's pretty picky with memory cards that it needs, I would recommend sticking to a 128 or 256 gig high endurance card. Similarly, they need to restore the capability for us to get image previews when we're using the app to see all of our driving and parking recording videos saved in the dash cam. And then finally, it's got voice notifications, which I find to be very helpful, but I would love to see some additional options available to help us better fine-tune exactly what it tells us and what it doesn't. Now, my preferred configuration for the A139 Pro is the dual channel version to get the front and the rear recording, kind of your standard angles here for a dash cam. That said, I've been playing around with having the interior cam recording as well, mostly just to capture kind of like funny things that my kids say when we're driving around, or just to capture kind of anything else that happens inside the car or kind of outside the windows too. And so for that reason, I also like the idea of going for the full 3-channel setup as well. If you ever want to turn off the interior-facing camera, you can just press and hold the emergency recording button, and that can be beneficial whether it's for privacy reasons or for video quality reasons. And then when you're ready to resume recording inside the cabin, you can turn that interior camera back on the exact same way. And then as far as my overall conclusion here with this A139 Pro, I think it's the best dash cam that I've tested yet. There's still room for refinement, of course, but it's got excellent video quality and a really nice feature set. The Starvis 2 sensor that's built in is very impressive. The dashcam can record both when you're driving and when you're parked, and it's available in a variety of different configurations, including just a single channel version, a dual channel version, or the full triple channel setup for front, rear, and interior recording. And then I would add the PowerCell 8 battery pack to get the parking recording. I'd pick up the remote Bluetooth button to make it easier to trigger event recordings. And then I would pick up the SanDisk Max Endurance card, the 256 gig version, to install in the dashcam. And if you'd like to pick up the A139 Pro, I've got some links for you guys down in the video description. If you purchase it from BlackBoxMyCar, it's going to automatically save you guys 5% off your A139 Pro or your PowerCell 8 battery pack. Additionally, if you choose to purchase it from Viofo, you can save $20 off your A139 Pro by using the coupon code VORTEXRADAR. And so yeah, very impressive showing here from Viofo with the A139 Pro. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask down in the comment area below. And you can check out some of my other videos with tests, other comparisons to other dash cams, other Viofo dash cams, other brands of dash cams, etc. You can check out some of my other videos that are available for you guys too. And so with that said, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hope you're doing great, and I'll see you in the next video.